Welcome again to Cottage Talk. I am Russ Goldman. Joining me again is Tony Gold. We're the Gold Dust Twins. We're back together to preview the upcoming match for Fulham against Manchester United at Old Trafford. I'm really excited about this. Tony is as well. And we're going to be with you for probably about 30 minutes previewing the match. And at the end, we'll be giving our prediction for this match. Friday Night Football under the lights. Sky Sports, it should be pretty exciting. I'm excited about it. But before I do anything else, I want to welcome my co-host back to the show who just got back from Cyprus. Tony, how you doing?
I'm good, man. Thank you very much. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm looking forward to doing this show. Before we do anything else, I do want to mention, please, as always, please do subscribe on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. It does help other Fulham supporters find us. Okay, Tony, before we get into talking about Manchester United, previewing the match, we'll also talk about Marco's presser, which happened yesterday. But before we do that, I made a prediction for the season on my last episode. I haven't talked to you since, so I have no idea what your prediction is for Fulham's season. So please share it with me now. What is your prediction for Fulham's season?
I think it's a tough one because obviously we're still busy in the transfer market, and I imagine that we're going to carry on up until deadline day. So to make a prediction now, not knowing fully what our final sort of squad's going to look like, it's quite difficult.
It is.
However, that said, obviously with the signings that we've already made, which have been very positive, I think, I still think that our Achilles heel is going to be the lack of another top-class centre forward. I think Silva desperately needs to look at bringing in a player in that area who, anyone's guess, to be honest with you, because they're like gold dust, as you've seen. Tottenham have paid over the odds for Solanke, but that's unfortunately the going rate at the moment for any striker worth his salt that has got the potential to score goals in the Premier League. That's the sort of fee that you're going to be looking at, and I don't see Fulham paying anything close to that to get someone in. So my worry is he's going to rely on Muniz and Raul and maybe even Stansfield throughout the season. Right. I think we're going to be short in that area in terms of scoring goals, and you can't rely on Smith Rowe and Iwobi and all those other players to chip in with enough goals. So that for me is where I'm stuck really in terms of where we're looking to finish. Ideally, I think we've improved in the signings that we've made this season. I still think we're threadbare. But if he does get another centre-half in, if he does get another DM, defensive midfield player in and a striker, then to be honest with you, with the squad that we've got and the players he's brought in, I'm looking at top 10.
Okay.
Top 10 this season, no question.
Okay. I understand that. I made my prediction, and if you want to know my prediction, you'll have to listen to my season preview show. I'm not going to reiterate that, but let's just say I'm being optimistic for the season. But part of it, Tony, I'm glad that you mentioned different players potentially coming in. Before we talk about Marco's presser, I do want to mention this, that I actually watched an ESPN FC show previewing the match. And it's funny that you mentioned striker, because their biggest worry when they were talking about Fulham was who's going to score the goals. So I understand that. I totally understand that. They talked about the purple patch with Rodrigo Muniz. Could he replicate that over a course of the season? These are your concerns. So I definitely understand that. So I respect where you're coming from on that. It's difficult to predict the season. Listen, we all do it. We're going to do it based on what they currently have, and we have to project as well. And I am projecting, and again, when you do assume, it does make an ass out of you and me, and I am assuming, based on what I listened to in the presser from Marco, that they're going to add at least a defensive midfielder and a center back. So that's going to lead us to talk about the presser, because Marco does talk about this, Tony. He mentions that he's pretty confident. If I'm reading between the lines, I think that they potentially, I'm not saying that they have someone sealed and delivered yet, but I think Marco knows something, that they're close to signing a defensive midfielder, and he felt pretty confident as well about the center back position. So that's why I'm making the prediction that I'm making, because I feel that they're going to get players in at those positions. What are your thoughts about Marco coming out so strong about the center back position and the defensive midfielder position?
Yeah, I think with Palhinha obviously gone now, that was a crucial position for him. I think that is the area for Marco Silva that's really important for this team, and I think that he needs to replace him definitely. The question now is obviously the players that we had in mind, or the players that were being sort of touted as being sort of shoo-ins. McTominay's now gone quiet. That doesn't look like that's going to be happening. Phillips, by all accounts, has signed for Ipswich tonight, which is
that's right.
A strange and bizarre move.
I don't get that one
for him, but fantastic kudos to Ipswich if they can get the Phillips that was firing at all cylinders at Leeds, and they've obviously got a very good player. So it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about Andre, but that looks like that's gone a bit quiet recently. So I know who else is there at the moment. I mean, I can't think of anybody else outside of those three that we've really been, linked with in that particular area. And unless, as you say, he's got someone up his sleeve that we don't know about, that they've been watching for a while, and he's just going to spring it like the Cuenca one, where that came out of absolutely nowhere. So maybe he's got another gem up his sleeve, and we know that he can pull them out the bag. So, that's obviously very important. And the centre half position, we've had a lot of discussions about this. I've only seen Cuenca very, briefly. I've looked at his highlight shows. I've seen him now for Villarreal. I think we've got an exceptional player there. I really do. And I think that given a chance and opportunity to adjust to the Premier League and the pace of it, he's very good on the ball. He seems very technically astute. So I think that we've got a good plan. It was good to see Luke de Figueiredo's get a squad number as well. So that means that he's obviously in the back of his mind. So yeah, I think that's another area where he will, bring in another player. Obviously, we've been linked with Anderson, as you know. But at that price, I think that that might put us off a little bit. I don't think he's worth that kind of money, to be honest. But we'll have to wait and see.
I think it's a waiting game between Carlos and Anderson. I think Fulham have made it clear that, based on what we're reading, that their first choice is probably Anderson at this point. So they're going to wait to see what Palace do. And unfortunately, the waiting game sucks for us and sucks for the players and Marco himself, because you don't have a player in, but this is part of the window. This is part of what drives us crazy as Fulham supporters, that we have to see this situation play out until the end of the window. And I hate it, but I believe that they will get a center back. I truly believe that they will get a defensive midfielder. I'll throw one name to you. Vinny Souza has not gone yet at Sheffield United. I think that might be a potential target. Everyone tells me that he's the closest to a comparison to Palhinha. I don't know. I've not watched Souza enough to make that judgment myself. But what's interesting, and I actually heard from a source today that told me that he is hearing, and I'll say it's a he, is hearing that there are names out there that are being bandied around amongst Fulham themselves that we don't know about, that they're talking to other players and agents that the public does not know about. That kind of excites me. Like you said, the Cuenca thing. I wouldn't be shocked if there's going to be something like that happens, Tony, out of the blue, that would shock us fans. I was told that there could be a situation that might shock us. So who knows? We shall see.
I don't see Palace selling both their first choice centre halves. Do you know what I mean? I just don't see
That's
that
stupid. Yeah. That's stupid. If you're asking me, I think they will end up with Carlos. That's what I think ultimately will happen, which I don't think is a bad thing. I don't have an issue with swinging for the fences, as we would say over here, for Anderson, and putting Palace basically under pressure a little bit. I don't have any issue with that. The problem I have is that the season's about to begin and they don't have another center back. That's the issue I have. But this is the game that they play. This is why I knew that the team would not be completely fulfilled until the transfer window closes, and we'll have to see. But one other tidbit from Marco's presser was interesting, and I've made my thoughts pretty clear about Jay Stansfield. And Marco's made it clear that Jay Stansfield is going to stay with Fulham. And apparently they've gotten offers and they're just not going to act on them that they have a plan for him. So that's interesting, Tony, because again, I was thinking, well, listen, if he's not part of the plan, then you should not send him out on loan again. You should sell him. Marco's made it clear. It sounds like he's seen enough, Tony, that he's in his plans. That speaks volumes to me. So I think Stansfield's going to be part of Fulham's season. Now, listen, that could change if they throw a curveball at us and they bring in a striker. But right now, Jay Stansfield's part of the mix.
Yeah, I think with Bobby Decordova-Reid and obviously William now gone, or certainly not coming back, doesn't look like it. We're a little bit threadbare in those wide areas. I think, for Silva looking at it, we obviously know that Stansfield likes to play centrally, but probably in a 2. In a 1, I don't think he can fulfill that role. But out wide, given license to get at players playing in that wide area, I think he's an option.
I agree.
Look, I know I'm not a big fan of stats, as you know. Stats don't always tell the full picture. And I know Marco Silva isn't either. But there was a really good, interesting piece on Sky Sports that they covered about the fewest big chances created by Premier League teams last season. And we were one of, after them, Burnley, Sheffield United and Luton, we were the next on the list with only 69 big chances created last season. And I think that's quite telling, Russ.
Yeah.
Because even with all the great play that we have, it shows that we're not creating that many chances, or certainly not converting the chances that we're creating. And I think that's something that needs to be addressed this season. And it's a problem, because if he carries on with the one up front, it's, you're asking that player to do a hell of a lot. I don't think Stansfield's that man by any stretch of the imagination, but I think he deserves an opportunity and a chance to see whether he can do it. And I think that's got to be where we're at with him.
Okay. I want to go back to you, talk about the big chances created, because I think to counter that, I think Marco had his sights set on Emile Smith-Rowe. And I think that's a big part of changing that, Tony. Now, Again, I truly believe he's going to be our number 10. I could end up being wrong. He might play some out on the wing. He might play a little bit deeper at some point. But I think having that player in the box, and also with the ability to create the way that he does, I've seen it for Arsenal. I know he can. I think that is potentially trying to take care of that issue that they had, like you said, with big chances created. I'm just saying, I think Smith-Rowe might be a big part of changing that.
Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
Okay, my friend, let's go on. Now let's start talking about the match. We're going to focus a little bit on Manchester United. So I've watched a lot of videos, and I mean a lot of videos. I listened to a lot of podcasts, getting myself ready for this match. I wanted to be as well up to date on Manchester United as I possibly could be. And let's just say the Manchester United supporters, they're very, I would say very confident going into this match. And that's fair. That's totally fair. But when I look at Manchester United, I look at a team, I know that they've just added some really good additions. We'll see how they fit in. But I will always fall back to who the manager is. So for me, you can have a bunch of players that have all the statistics. I don't like statistics either. You can have the players that have all the talent in the world. But if you don't have someone that can rein in that talent and have it play together as a cohesive unit, I don't think you're going to go where you want to go. That's why I think Manchester United are going to be in and around the top 6 all season long, could potentially sneak into the top 3. I don't think they're going to. And I think what is going to stop them from doing it is the manager. We'll be talking about the manager coming up a little bit when we compare him to Marco Silva. But I'm looking at Manchester United with the additions that they made, and everything on paper looks like they've improved tremendously. But I have my doubts, Tony.
Yeah, look, I think listening to Ten Hag recently, he's playing down the game tomorrow night, making out that Manchester United are not ready.
I've heard that.
That they're gelling together. Too many players that have come in very late, and But look, he's a shrewd guy. He's very clever. He knows what's coming tomorrow night. When we went there last season and pulled off that 2-1 victory, he knows what we're about, and I think we're going to be, we're stronger. We're going there stronger. I
totally
think Fulham. yeah, Fulham are going to be well up for this game tomorrow night. Well up for this. So I think he's playing it down because he knows that they could get caught with their pants down tomorrow night. However, saying that, you know, they're still a quality side. They're still one of the best teams in world football and in Europe. The fact that obviously a few of their signings, Xerxes I think's out, Yoro's out, so that's two. De Ligt, who they've signed, he's obviously only just started training. Will he throw him straight into the mix? Don't know. The other fella that they've signed, Mazzaore, is it?
Yeah. Yes.
He probably goes straight in, but again, he's only just signed. So, they're also gelling and knitting together. And I think it's a great great time to start the season, going to Old Trafford and playing Manchester United. It's a great time to be playing them, in my opinion. We've settled down. I've watched, the Hoffenheim game. We're gelling. We're playing some good attacking football. We look fit. We look sharp. I don't think we've got anything to fear tomorrow night, Russ. I really don't. I think we go there with absolute confidence and take the game to them.
Totally agree, Tony. I'm there with you 100%. And that's what's interesting about this, because I've watched Fulham in the preseason. I've seen the additions. I know everyone's going to focus on who's missing, and it's a significant miss. But you know what? And I'll keep saying this till I'm blue in the face. They beat Manchester United at Old Trafford without João Palhinha. We're going to talk about that when we talk about the starting 11. They can do it. I know they can do it. And I'm feeling pretty confident going into this match. But let's focus a little bit more on Manchester United by going through strengths and weaknesses. So let's talk about strengths. So in my opinion, when I look at them, first person I look at Bruno Fernandes. He's a very good player. I can't stand him as a player because he reminds me too much of Mitrovic with his diving and his play acting. I hate all that. But you know what? He is an excellent player, and I think he is so important to everything that they do. He's a tough person to play against, talking about Bruno. So for me, he is a huge strength of their side. Going forward, besides, say, an out-and-out striker, they are strong going forward. We're going to talk about weaknesses, but when I look at overall strengths, I really settle in on Bruno Fernandes. How about you? Where do you see their strengths lying?
Yeah, I think their danger player is Garnacho for me.
I was going to say that too. I'm glad you mentioned him.
Yeah, he's the one that we've got to be, careful and try and keep quiet. He really is a quality player, and he's shown that. He showed that the other day against City. He's got great energy. Give him time and space, and he will hurt you. And now they're starting to trust him, so they're giving him the ball a lot more, certainly in dangerous areas. He has to be watched. Obviously, set pieces, Fernandes can be deadly. Yep. We know what they're about. Look, I'm not a big fan of his personality, but as a footballer, he's another player that you can't afford to give him the space and the room, because he will hurt you. I think where I think we can really get at them and hurt them is defensively. I don't think they're great defensively, and I think that's an area where Silva will focus on and try and get at them, certainly centrally. I think they can be exposed there and hurt. Obviously, McTominay, it'll be very interesting to see if he starts tomorrow. Right. I imagine he will. But we know what he can be a threat at those set pieces. So he needs to be marked and managed well. But look, they have got those individuals that can cause you problems. But I think at the moment that's the key to us. Collectively, I don't think at the moment they're a real team. I think they've got some great individuals, but the difference is Fulham seem to be gelling as a team, and I think that is where we will have the positive effect, and that's what could get us the result that we need.
And I totally agree with you, and I'm glad that you went to team versus individuals, because that's where I'm looking at it. You can have all the talent in the world. We're gelling. Listen, Manchester United could gel at certain parts of the season, but I think we are facing them at the best possible time, the beginning of the season. I think it's a wonderful opportunity. And I'm glad that you mentioned defense, because this, to me, is a weakness of Manchester United. I was watching a video with Mark Goldridge, and he was talking about something that he was fearing heading into this match was crosses in the box. Apparently, Fulham were second in the league last year with crosses in the box. Brentford were first. We were second. I didn't even know that because I could care less about stats, but I found that interesting that Fulham had that many crosses in the box, and they don't, based on their history from last season, did not handle crosses in the box well. I also think that we can get at their fullbacks, whoever they are. I know you talk about the central defenders. I think you can get at their fullbacks too. So I think their weakness, Tony, is spot on, their defense.
Yeah, 100%. I don't, yeah, as I say, centrally, they look vulnerable there at the moment. And if we can get our balls into the box and deliver and beat the first man, then, we're going to create chances. With the players that we've got, we are going to create chances. And it's the same for them. If they give Smith Rowe time and space, he's going to hurt you. If they give Iwobi time and space, he's going to hurt you. And I think that is the key to us really is channeling in on those areas and getting at them. And I think that if we can get in behind them, and as you say, deliver those crosses into the area, if Muniz can get himself into the right, positions, then I think, we've got every opportunity to really cause them a lot of problems.
Totally agree, Tony. All right. Coming up next, Tony and I are going to talk about the coaching battle. We're going to talk about how Fulham can win this match, the starting 11, and our prediction for the match. Okay, Tony, let's do the second half of this show. Let's talk about the coaching battle. I've already mentioned this at the beginning of the show. I think Fulham have an advantage here. They've played Manchester United several times this matchup, Silva versus Ten Hag. And yes, Ten Hag has gotten some victories, but Fulham have given him all kinds of fits. I'm talking about Fulham versus Manchester United. I think Marco Silva knows how to play against Ten Hag's teams and will have Fulham set up. And I think that there is an advantage here because I think Marco can adjust if he needs to. I don't know how much adjusting Erik Ten Hag or how much he's going to look back at the past of these matches, because if I'm Marco Silva, I look at the blueprint that you've already done and tweak things if you need to. But there's a blueprint for Fulham beating Manchester United from the last two seasons, Tony. I think the clear winner in this coaching battle is Marco.
Yeah. It's going to be very, very interesting. I think a lot is going to depend on how Ten Hag approaches the game and how he sets Manchester United up, Russ. I think if you saw them against City recently, he had this sort of split striker system with the four midfielders. And, he was looking at those extra passes through midfield. And it'll be interesting to see whether or not he's going to persist with that or he'll go back to, his normal regular system. Because if you allow Fulham to dominate possession, that's when we can hurt teams, and we have hurt teams. So it's just going to be how he's going to set up. And also, I'm not sure he knows his best 11 at the moment. So I think there's going to be a few little surprises in there tomorrow. I think some of the youngsters may start, which, will be interesting. But yeah, we've got to make sure, or Silva, I don't think he's going to change or divert from the way or deviate from the way that he sets up and plays. In fact, I think he will give, Smith Rowe a little bit more license to play in that space. And I think you're right. I think he will play in the 10. I think that's his best position, and I think he's shown that in the games that he's played. And I think, we've just got to get the ball in those areas, and I think we can cause United a lot of problems. And then the emphasis will be on Ten Hag to say, right, okay, how do I combat, that situation? And I don't know whether he's got the players to do that at the moment.
Okay. So that's going to lead us. I think you've already brought us to how can Fulham win this match. Based on what you just told me, Tony, it really is getting balls in the box, soaking up the pressure, and beating them on the break. Is that the best way for Fulham to approach this match?
We've got to get the ball to the players that can affect the game, that can cause problems. And we know that our front five can do that. We know that they've got the ability. So get the ball out wide, get it to danger players, get it in the box. And as you know, we have to be clinical at both ends of the pitch. We've got to make sure that we defend strongly and don't give away any, stupid goals or make any silly mistakes. And when we get the opportunities, and we will get opportunities, we need to make sure we convert. And that's the difference. And I think last season, a lot of the time when we were creating chances, we weren't converting. And that's why we didn't get as many points on the board as maybe we should have done. So it's going to be very interesting to see. But look, I think from what I've seen at the moment, as I say, I think we're still lacking up front. I don't think Muniz has done enough pre-season. I don't think Raul's done enough pre-season. I think that's an area that we really still need to strengthen. But they obviously believe in him because they've given him the number 9 shirt. They're obviously going to go with him. So let's hope he can hit the ground running. We know he can be a threat. We know he can score goals because we've seen it. But can he do it consistently, week in, week out? That's the thing we don't know.
Okay, good stuff there, Tony. All right, let's go to starting 11. Give me your starting 11 and then give me what you think Marco's going to do with his starting 11. So what you would do and then what you think Marco's going to do.
Okay, well, I'm going to go with what I think Marco's going to do.
Okay, good.
Because this is what I said. So I think Leno will start in goal, obviously. I think the back four will be Castagna at right back. I think it'll go Robinson. And then the 2 centre halves, Bassi. I would go with Cuenca. I think he may go with Diop. That's the only change that I think you might see there. But I would go with Bassi and Cuenca. Then in midfield, this is the interesting one. I would drop Pereira a little bit deeper to play alongside Lukic.
Okay.
And then I would go Traore, Iwobi, Smith Rowe in the 10, and obviously Muniz up front. So, you know, Traore on the right, Iwobi on the left, or they can interchange. To be honest with you, Smith Rowe in the 10 and Muniz up top. That's what I think will be. That would be my starting 11. I think we won't be far off what Silva will do. The only question mark is the centre half, and would he consider dropping Pereira a little bit deeper? He may not.
Okay, so that is interesting. Let's go back before we talk about in the middle. I want to get your thoughts about right back because he has started Kenny Tete at right back in these friendlies.
Yeah,
I want to see Castagna. So do you think he might go with Kenny Tete?
I can only think that obviously Castagna played in the Euros and maybe he's played a lot of football and he's just given Tete a run out. I will be surprised if he doesn't start Castagna. I will, honestly. Okay. But I think it's just a case of they don't want to overuse him because he's played a lot of football and he's probably match fit. He's probably up there, doesn't want to get him injured. So, yeah, I mean, listen, they're both adequately capable. But as you know, I prefer Castagna because he's more consistent.
Totally agree. That's why I'm on that. I just have a strange feeling he might go with Tete, but we're going to have to see when the starting 11 comes out. So now let's talk about really the meat of the issue in central midfield. We know Smith Rowe. We believe Smith Rowe will be your 10. The question will be, because the last time they beat Manchester United, obviously at Old Trafford, they had Reed and Lukic play together. Would he be tempted to play Reed and Lukic together? And then what happens to Pereira? What happens? Would that change everything if he goes in that direction? Would you, for safety's sake, play Reed and Lukic together? Throw a little bit of a curveball to Ten Hag and do that. I don't think I would. I would prefer to go with the lineup that you and I are talking about, especially in the middle. Do you think he might be tempted to go a little bit more defensive? It's not usually in his nature, though.
I think the issue with the players that you've mentioned are, and this is really pivotal in everything. We weren't great playing out from the back into midfield last season. The amount of times we lost the ball, the amount of times it broke down, you know, it wasn't great. And I think, you know, dropping Pereira in there a little bit deeper because he's so good technically on the ball. I think that if our centre halves can play into him, he's comfortable receiving the ball with his back to goal. Right, he doesn't mind receiving the ball under pressure. He's quick with his thinking. He sees pictures early, and I think that's an area that we really needed to improve in. And I think he can do that job. And then he's got the comfort of knowing that, you know, I think Silva's going to put a lot of trust in Lukic this season. I think he's had a good pre-season. He had a great Euros. And I think he's a player that's obviously he's a confidence player that needs to play regularly. And I think we're going to see the best version of Lukic that we've seen at the club this season. So I can see him going with that, but I wouldn't be surprised to see obviously the safer option of going with Reed.
Okay. Excellent, Tony. All right. All right. Let's go to your prediction, Tony. Give me your prediction for the match.
I'm going to go 2-1 Fulham.
Do you know why I'm laughing? Because that's my prediction. I'm going 2-1 to Fulham. I had literally written it down, Tony. I'm going 2-1 to Fulham. You and I are in agreement. And we might be the only ones predicting a Fulham victory. And I don't care. Okay. I'm going to tell you right now. I don't care. I've watched the preseason. I've seen the players that they brought in. I know what they have. I have a good feeling about this.
Yeah, we've got nothing to fear. Absolutely nothing to fear. As I said, we're playing with confidence. I like our pace and energy in the forward areas. And I think Man U are there. They're there for the taking at the moment. I really do. And we've just got to be positive. As I say, it's about minimizing the mistakes. And that's the key to it all. If we can minimize the mistakes, be safe defensively, we will create chances. And I believe that we'll go on and win the game.
Okay, excellent. Tony, thank you so much for joining me shortly after you arrived back in England. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Oh, it's great. It's always a joy having you on. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Cottage Talk. As always, please do subscribe on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. It does help other phone supporters find us. That's going to do it for this episode. My name is Russ Goldman. Thank you as always for watching and listening to Cottage Talk, part of the talkSPORT Fan Network.